Hi guys, my name is Karen Martin and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the ego. The ego wants safety and most of all love. The ego is a mysterious concept coined by Sigmund Freud that to date has multiple conceptualizations in the modern literature. But for the purpose of this topic, the ego will be defined as the general term for the way a person views their self-concept. That includes internal attributes and external attributes, such as appearance, possessions, roles, titles, achievements, things you can identify with, vehicles, brands, clothes, appearances, things, resumes, numbers, anything you can measure, money, status, etc., etc. And also internal attributes such as self-worth and the limiting beliefs associated with self-worth. That can also include egoism, self-centered conduct and survival behavior, unconscious survival tactics, instant gratification and self-defense behaviors. Ego behavior is often displayed by young children that are not able to take perspectives and are said to be at a self-serving ego state of being for the most part of infancy. The function of the ego is to help you survive. But sometimes the ego state can be out of balance, too proud, or even too diminished. Also, for the purpose of this topic, the soul will be defined as your inner being, higher consciousness, divine nature, or spirit that exists beyond the human body. To help distinguish the two concepts of ego and soul and balance these two concepts and facilitate your personal empowerment, let's first look at the concept of the soul. It can be most humbling to think that the soul or the essence of a person is not just the ego identity, but a consciousness or part of the human species, human spirit, something bigger or higher in nature, an intelligent creation from divine proportions, from an intelligent designer or source that is powerfully loving. So for the purpose of outlining the soul's journey in the human body and integrating or illuminating these two concepts, imagine that a baby is born with a soul that comes into the world and has to integrate the body, or the ego, away from a divine connection or source. Then physically separate from a maternal connection, then a paternal connection. Then later tested by an intimate relationship connection, sometimes with someone completely opposite to you, all as sources of survival and love. These connections or conditions all leading to a source of love that may or may not likely be sustainable or dependable, not only due to the dual nature of reality, but to the changing world that we live in, and throw in the biased nature of the ego. Yikes. Fear can represent the misuse of imagination, false evidence appearing real. This unsubstantiated fear, this default of the ego, in many cases can actually be a reduction of awareness, as well as a great form of resistance to life's blessings. Although fear is useful when it's used to motivate appropriate action and to initiate better preparation towards an endeavor, fear from the ego can manifest in the physical form as perceptions of separation and survival instincts. Fear-triggering messages can be spread by other people and even the media. And if the ego reacts or is triggered by fearful messages, this can manifest as destructive behaviors. Self-perceived danger is the ego's trigger, triggering unconscious defensiveness used by the ego. A trigger that can be consciously disengaged when balancing the ego. So especially through taking a moment and breathing, returning to the present moment and returning to love. Love illuminates distorted perceptions that come from fear. Love also helps bring order and coherence to the body, but quite often fear is a motivation of the ego. So, motivated by false evidence appearing real, it can be a real problem. That's where the awareness of a balanced ego can greatly help. And so enter the soul, that perhaps blooms from the heart to express and connect with love and allow the body to thrive in the best possible conditions. And when in balance, the ego can be more in balance with its counterpart, the soul or the spirit or higher nature, more integrated with the physical survival instincts of the ego and the inspirations, compassion and unifying nature of the soul and body. And this is also a great connection between the mind and the heart. And the ego has some interesting history and origins. As infants, the survival needs and ultimately our ego needs were in the hands of our primary caregivers. And at this time, the ego may have even been initiated into the harsh survival conditions of the world with our caregivers if our needs were not met, which is not necessarily deemed as a bad thing. This is a resilience-provoking thing and a balancing thing, something to learn from as you get your survival needs met in the world. Another point of initiation is through intimate relationships, potential secondary ego triggers of early attachment trauma, where ego attachment security is tested. Then, to make matters more complex, there's also generational epigenetic triggers of ego, perhaps passed on from generations that may even be still stored as trauma in the current body, conditions to be healed and reconditioned from. Integrating and balancing the ego is similar to the phases of trauma recovery. An enlightening framework developed by Dr. Pierre Janet and Dr. Judith Herman describes recovery from trauma involving 3 phases of recovery, notably the first being safety and stabilization, followed by remembrance and mourning, and reconnection and integration. This framework offers a great overview of the process involved in balancing the ego. Balancing the ego is very much involved with the safety as the primary driver of the ego, as well as processing the feelings of grief, anger, sadness, and disappointment, and letting go of feelings of loss that come from ego attachments, while losses can also be perceived as gains and evolution to your soul. And finally, the reconnection phase, the unfolding of your ego soul's journey or your evolution once more to include more connection, more sharing, and shining of your soul once more, just like the diamond in the rough is crafted and stripped away from some of its edges. As the ego is concerned with survival, it can be viewed as a sense of self separate from others, love and connection to a higher power. The ego can act out, doing things out of defense and insecurity. The ego ultimately seeks security, but sometimes in a misdirected way, from the fear-based perspective focused on limitation and lack, self-involved in illusion of separation, void of love and gratitude. Finally, the ego preserves itself through the emotion of pride, or the attitude of pride, because that is its last defense, the last weapon against surrendering to love. It must take pride to remain in control and separate. When you put down your ego's defenses, you are free to surrender to love and allow all kinds of divine assistance. So that's where humility comes in. So if a major role of the ego is defensive, to defend a fragile ego, it serves to establish your ego identity as a part of something bigger, something supernatural or divine in nature, spirit, or even more than your outer appearances or the self-esteem of the ego, but also connected to the human family. Humility is understanding that you're connected to a great and powerful source, much bigger than you are, and that source governs love, wisdom, guidance, and healing. Humility is something that we have when we realize that we don't have all the answers. Humbling yourself is the greatest thing that you can do to allow things to work out for you. This connects you to the greatest assistance one can receive, allowing divine assistance, a unification and harmonization with love and infinite intelligence. The truth is that you don't have to do it all alone. Having humility means having a trust in the process of things beyond your own capacity and time frame. It allows a greater life force to intercede and take the pressure off of you, and an opening of your mind and a flexibility which opens your mind to receiving wisdom and guidance from this infinite field of love and intelligence. Humility paves the way for faith to allow the good things that are on your heart that you desire to unfold with great assistance from a higher intelligence. When you open up yourself to this assistance from something greater than you, you allow understanding and knowledge, wisdom, and infinite opportunities to unfold. And a balanced sense of self is not too proud and superior, nor meek or inferior. That sounds like a rap. A balanced sense of self is not too proud and superior or meek and inferior. And that totally sounds like a rap song. But it's balanced. And it's not excessively self-sacrificing nor preoccupied with self-enhancement. So it's good to be aware of the ego, to consciously choose to operate in love by rising above the ego and seeking the solutions for the greater good. Rising your intentions to a higher consciousness past the ego, and understanding that the ego is designed to help you survive. A balanced ego is effective and harmonious. In fact, a balanced ego has more of a greater awareness of the greater good, or the highest good of all. The greater good, rather than the ego, allows you to cooperate with others and to also be open to the full potential of abundance to unfold. The greater good is an outcome from love. Love can work in mysterious and wise-filled ways through miracles, coincidences, and synchronicities. While not always controlled by your own ideas and timing, the how seem to just take care of themselves. Creating a receptive mind to the superconsciousness, that is, the intelligence of the universe, can be done by quietening your mind and tuning into love and the interconnected nature of the universe. These superconscious messages are often represented and experienced by a kind of a silent language, and is felt as an inner knowing and represented in symbolic dreams, visions, and intuitive messages. Subtle guidance, synchronicities can also be experienced as an inner prompting or an enthusiasm and an inspired action. Thinking that you can control everything is actually a limiting belief. With humility, you can accept greater understanding and allow things to work out without the limitations of your own force. The superconscious universal intelligence is working to facilitate your greatest good, including your mission and the expression of your gifts and talents for the greater good. When you have a balanced ego, your consciousness expands. You can meet others in the sweet spot of opportunity and harmony. Healthy boundaries are maintained and needs are met and respected. Humility rebalances the ego equation with wisdom by activating faith and love. A balanced ego is a platform for personal growth, self-actualization, and ultimately the experience of more joy in life. As you consciously can possess your ego, wow, what an opportunity. You realize that you are capable of returning to love and recognizing your ego's need for survival. Keeping your ego in check, consciously and lovingly protecting your mind, your heart, and your physical needs. Determining your boundaries, using awareness and assertive skills, and influencing your survival, safety, and thrival. Through expanded awareness in encompassing the higher soul self and by releasing the identification with personal identity and ego attachments, once processing trauma, forgiveness, and negative emotions, and practicing higher emotions, the ego can become balanced. And this is what it feels like. Awareness, compassion, and a growth mindset. A balanced ego has a great awareness. It's able to be present and mindful. It is self-aware and has a positive and healthy self-esteem or self-worth, as well as others' awareness, a positive and a healthy regard towards others as well, including a healthy balance of empathy and compassion towards others. A balanced ego considers the growth and the needs of the self and others, having an inclusive attitude and an interdependent identity, with an awareness and compassion for the self and others, a balanced interpretation of the self in conjunction with others, living in harmony and humanitarian regard for others. This aspect of the balanced ego can be balanced more easily when the need for safety and security is met. All components work together to balance the ego, including self-care and communication. A healthy, balanced ego experiences safety and uses tools for resilience and healthy stress management skills, such as balanced breathing techniques, exercise, healthy eating, emotional processing, journaling, and relaxation methods to recharge your personal batteries. Balancing the ego can feel like openness and communication. When the ego is not preoccupied with survival, it can thrive, open to new learning and new information, communication, authenticity, cooperation, communicating via assertive skills. Balancing the ego means healthy boundaries and assertive skills. As a society, we need healthy boundaries to thrive and get our needs met. But sometimes boundaries are too tight, and sometimes they're seemingly non-existent. But all healthy living organisms need the right amount of protection and nurture to feel safe, grow, and thrive. So having healthy boundaries tie in greatly to self-awareness and self-care. Boundaries are implemented using assertive skills. A balanced ego also means more joy, shining and doing what you love, what you're inspired by, being your higher self. That is spiritual. And it can be released when you have your balanced ego and are free to be you. When you do what you love and you come from that inner outpour of inspiration, you compete with no one. And you're giving love from an abundant mindset and a positive attitude and a positive self-esteem. Finally, the balanced ego knows the personal values that they have, your purpose and your inspired purpose or serving the greater good. A balanced ego can also experience acceptance and gratitude. When you are mindfully present, you can accept. Instead of judge, you tap into the love and wisdom that is always there, and you can bypass the trappings of the ego. A motivation charged with love dissolves the ego's motivation of fear. It also cuts the competition, so it does not compete, but operates in faith, and it takes insecurity away. A balanced ego can also enjoy acceptance and gratitude. When you are mindfully present, you can accept. Instead of judge, you tap into the love and wisdom that's always there and can bypass the trappings of the ego. A great way to balance the ego is to take a moment, connect with your heart, take in 3 deep breaths, practice breath awareness regularly. Be present, mindful, and emotionally neutral regularly. Being truly present leads to a greater level of awareness and observation. So in your day, take a heart moment. Take attention onto your heart. What wisdom is your heart telling you? So open up your heart, be grateful for something. Now listen, be receptive to wisdom, truth, and a higher awareness. Now that your heart and brain connection is stronger, your ego has the opportunity to be more in balance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share and subscribe to support it on the YouTube algorithm and to see more content. Hit the bell icon for new content notifications. Check out the wonderful Whole Food Garden, the educational, whole food, wholesome adult colouring in book available via the link below. Thanks again for watching, lots of love, and remember to live with gratitude.